Hello and welcome to SimCast, the higher education simulation podcast. My name's Lawrence Hill and I chair the simulation group in the School of Health Sciences at UEA Norwich.
Hello everyone, my name's Tony Jeremy and I'm the academic lead for simulation-based education at UEA Norwich.
In this episode today, we are working through our top fives according to the SITE model, which is surroundings or setting, information, team and equipment. And this particular episode is about our top 5 team considerations.
Yeah, so again, rules of engagement. We haven't seen each other's top 5s. Our reactions are very authentic and real.
We've not discussed them, and what we've learned already is that we've come about these things in slightly different ways, and hopefully are giving people some things just to think about, and certainly giving us some things to think about in terms of our top 5s.
Yeah, and again, like we said in the previous episodes, we probably have different top 5s than other people. So if you disagree with us, let us know in the comments why, and please give us your top 5. We'll be really interested to hear them.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you enjoyed the episode, give us a like. Equally so, if you don't like the episode, give us a dislike, but let us know in the comments why, because we're always keen to improve. To keep up to date with all things Sim, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to check that notification bell. And SimCast is available on all popular streaming platforms.
So, on this one, I can't remember who went first last time. I think it might have been you.
You threw me under the bus and made me go first
that's
last
right.
time.
Yeah.
So this time you can go first.
Right, fine, great. So my in 5th place for my top 5, I've gone with the simulation coordinator. So as a team member,
okay,
the simulation coordinator, I think, is the 5th most important. I can tell from your reaction that you have interpreted this top 5 in an entirely different way to me.
No, not necessarily.
No?
My reaction is for a reason.
Okay.
And I don't think I've necessarily interpreted differently to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it all will become clear.
Fine. Okay. I'm fascinated to find out why I got the non-verbals there. But I've gone for sim coordinator because I think that they're an integral role in the delivery of good quality simulation-based education.
Yep.
I think having somebody there to plan and oversee the simulation event who's not necessarily directly involved in the facilitation of the simulation is really beneficial. I think it helps to give a simulation event a sense of control and oversight, which sometimes can not be there when you've got lots of people playing or occupying different roles. So I think the sim coordinator is in my top 5 for that reason.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
What about you? Where did you go for top 5 for number 5?
So I don't know whether I'm regretting. I think I'm regretting not putting this higher in my top 5.
Okay,
but I've gone with the learners.
Okay.
They definitely have to be in my top 5.
Yeah, they're in the top 5.
But I put them as 5th.
Okay. I mean, you can't do it without them.
Absolutely. You can't do it without the learners. And I think when I was thinking about the team, particularly team considerations, for me, learners who are willing to engage with sim are a really important component that you need to consider. And if you have learners who either aren't willing to take part in sim, to push back, it makes it inherently harder. Also, if you have very novice learners, it makes it more challenging as well. So I was thinking,
because there are learners and then there are learners. Like it's like one group, but that contains a whole wide variety of different.
So we primarily teach undergraduate pre-registration students, and I think there's definitely a unique skill set in working with those learners. When you have people who are qualified and work in practice and they come and do sim, presents a new set of challenges. Generally speaking, I think they can get stuck in with the sim a little bit easier and a little bit better. Well, it's difficult to say really, isn't it?
It's really hard. I think there's
they definitely got more experience to lean into, more concrete experience.
They also have more professional vulnerability because they have already met a threshold standard, and that sense of imposter or existential crisis that sometimes comes in simulation is perhaps the stakes maybe a little bit higher for a registered professional?
So I think the way I was thinking about this list is how I would consider working with these individuals and some of the challenges I might face and things. So certainly learners, they need a lot of consideration, I think, to make the simulation event successful. You need to understand who your learner group is. You you need to prep them. And this goes back to the previous session we were talking about, the previous episode where we were talking about information. Prepping those learners, briefing those learners is really, really important as well. So I think all of these things need to be considered. So they definitely were in the top 5 for me. Arguably, they should be higher.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. And we'll see where I've put them in my list.
Castrating myself here now.
I mean, that's entirely up to you. If you, I mean, how you're doing it with your hands above the table is very impressive. But so I've actually gone in number 4 for Confederates.
Oh, okay.
So I've gone with kind of Confederates and actors and
plants people
stooges.
who are involved in the simulation, so allow it to unfold in a predictable fashion.
Yeah.
Simulated patients.
Simulated patients, but humans.
Participants.
Yeah, human participants who may or may not also be learners, who may or may not be actors or other faculty members, but people who are intentionally planted in a simulation to add to its authenticity and realism.
Yeah.
So I've put them there in a similar way to why I put the sim coordinator 5th, because I think that they add an element or an element of control in the case of the sim coordinator, which is really helpful and beneficial for simulation, but it isn't necessarily 100% necessary in order for the simulation event to take place and go ahead.
Okay.
So that's why I put them in at number 4. What about you? What have you put in at number 4?
So number 4, I've gone a little bit left field with this.
Oh, nice.
I've gone with a Cody briefer.
Ooh, like that.
So I don't think we do it enough. I think, I can't obviously speak for everyone. And I think if you are Cody briefing, fantastic, because you can lean on each other. You can help each other out if you're, giving feedback instead of debriefing, asking leading questions. And I just think it's a really useful team member to have.
Yeah.
But one we probably don't have enough of because we're often stretched for resources, particularly personnel.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point, actually, because we've talked about simulation, about being a complex social endeavor, and we've talked about how actually you have to hold a learner group and contain that learning experience. And I was having a conversation with a colleague about co-teaching in a kind of lecture format. And it occurred to me, it was a teaching observation, and it occurred to me afterwards, one of my reflections was, how much of my cognitive bandwidth do I spend trying to sustain the kind of the moment of the lecture and to kind of be in the intersubjective space between me and the students, and how much do I then have spare for actually thinking about the material that I'm teaching? And I think in simulation you have a similar kind of battle.
Oh, hugely. I mean, particularly if you're playing multiple roles simultaneously. We've talked about this previously, you'll often be the person facilitating the simulation and then be expected to debrief afterwards. So you're having to stack up, okay, well, that was a point I need to come back and talk to you. And if you don't have the luxury of writing it down at the time, it's all being stacked up there. We know that note-taking helps with, respective and prospective memory as well. So it's hugely cognitive. There's a huge cognitive load on you as the debriefer. So again, someone to lean into and to help you with that, I think is useful.
And also to give a different angle and to be able to draw on different practice experiences and to be able to, offer like another perspective. And I was imagining it before a bit like a Venn diagram. That actually you've got where all of the sort of...
Am I going to have to put my graphic skills into place?
Yeah, there you go. So, in the middle of where all of the one facilitator, other facilitator and learner group kind of cross over, you've got the kind of the moment of the learning event.
Yeah.
And sometimes, from my concentration as a facilitator wanes, or if I lose my thread, there's still that kind of the continuity of, of that space in the middle continues because of that other person's ability to step in.
So recommendation, where you can, code debrief.
Yeah, I think
really useful.
Yeah, 100%.
What did you put for 3?
I put simulation technicians.
Bosh.
Yes. Same for you?
Same for me.
Yeah. So clearly, these guys are a underappreciated group when it comes to the effective delivery of simulation. Unsung heroes. Yeah, absolutely. So they are the lifeblood of the complex system that is the simulation
glue that keeps everything together.
They deliver the kind of the materials. They ensure all the things are there in the right places. They do the irony with the work of the simulation technician is that when they do their job incredibly well, they are less visible.
Yeah,
because everything just works like we expect it to. So huge respect and shout out to all simulation technicians.
Not all heroes wear capes, right?
Not all heroes wear capes, but they do a fundamental role. I think you'd probably agree.
And massive skill set as well.
Yeah.
Particularly depending on where they work.
And hugely diverse skill set.
Yeah, diverse, absolutely. So some will be actively involved in making the simulation happen. Actually, if you're using a patient simulator that requires adjustments, then they might be involved in that. It might be behind the scenes kind of maintenance, repairing, setup, all of those different things.
Or maybe it's AV stuff that they're doing with streaming or with recording.
And we already know there's lots of technicians up and down the country as well doing really creative stuff as well, creating moulage, wounds, all of those different things as well. So an invaluable member of the team.
And we were lucky, weren't we, to speak to Dan Blood on a previous episode who talked about some of this stuff and I think is doing great work in championing the cause of the simulation technician. So they're at number 3 for me.
Yeah, great stuff.
All right, so where did you go then next?
So number 2 for me is the sim facilitators.
Right.
So the people on the shop floor who during simulation activity are making the simulation happen.
See, my mind is now boggling at where you are for number 1, but it's great. So you've gone for okay. So I should probably be transparent here as well that I've actually awarded a joint first place.
Well, hang on a minute.
Yeah,
this is not part of the rules of engagement.
I know. I've totally strayed from the rules, but I think it's important for me because I think you recognising the educators there, the facilitators, as being in that top 2. I can't really. They're in my top.
I know what you've done now, and I feel even worse. You've put your learners as shared number 1, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I've gone the facilitator and the learners.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus.
Again. Yeah. So, but for me, the simulation event is a shared experience between learners and. You're regretting this episode now, aren't you? Yeah. So Tony has no time for simulation learners.
All the hate in the comments below for me. That'd be great, particularly when you hear who my number 1 is.
This is going to be great. So I've gone joint first for educators and learners because I think once you strip it all away, when you take everything else out, go on.
Caveat,
go on.
When I talk about sim facilitator, I probably mean facilitator, debriefer. Person on the shop floor who makes up the numbers, which makes complex simulation in multiple rooms possible.
Yeah. No, fair enough. No, that's great. Yeah. And I think it also feels like a bit cheeky for me to just refer to the educator because, as you say, it is a complex role and you do lots of different things. But for me, there's when you pare it right back, when you strip everything else away, you can't do it without the simulation technicians. You can't do it without people that are willing to engage and active roles sometimes. But fundamentally, it comes down to learners and educators.
Yeah.
And the space between the two.
Even if my top 5 doesn't.
Right. So then who is your most important person in the world? In simulation.
Oh. Let me explain.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So,
do you want a shovel?
No. We've top and tailed. I've put the simulation coordinator as number 1.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And you put it as number 5.
Yeah.
I put learners as number 5, and you put learners as number 1.
Yeah.
Now, the reason, I'm thinking about the simulation coordinator as the person who is responsible for running the sim.
Right.
Not just physically running the sim, planning it all.
Yeah.
The person who makes it all happen. The person who the activity falls on the feet to. And without that individual, it wouldn't happen in the first place.
Yeah.
They're the people that do all of the emails and all of the planning. They may well be the person on the day who does all of the organisation, the room allocations, so that the educators can do their jobs properly and the learners can flourish in the sim.
I think that's entirely valid, because actually, unless there is somebody who can translate the guidelines or the legislation into effective learning outcomes and coordinate that event, then it's not a simulation event. So I can completely see why you've gone with the coordinator as the kind of most important, because without them, none of the simulation is going to happen.
Interesting there, isn't it? Like in your the way that you've envisaged this is the coordinator is almost a dispensable role, because you can do it without a coordinator. But I've looked at it a little bit more, I guess, strategically.
Yeah, and I think we saw that in the previous episode as well. That actually I took a very operational perspective on the most important pieces of information, and you had strategy. I didn't have strategy in mine. I took a different angle, and I think that's probably reflects the slightly different roles we have in simulation ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
So we've definitely shared some top fives, but the actual order itself might be slightly different. But I guess the ethos and philosophy is pretty solid.
I think so. Fundamentally, this is about people doing and creating experiences that are shared between learners and educators.
Yeah. Okay, so we'd love to hear your top five. So again, if you think anything's different or you agree with us, please let us know in the comments below. We're always keen to hear your comments.
Thanks very much for listening to this episode of SimCast, and we hope to see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.